Hello everyone, this is Imperial Gamer back after a seven-ish year long hiatus, and you may be wondering, what are you playing? Well, I'm playing Europa Universalis 4, probably the best strategy game ever made, and possibly ever will be made. This game does tens of thousands of calculations every minute that you play. This is a very complex game, and it's amazing that it even exists. This game's originally from 2014, and 2014, I think we all know what the technology was like. Laptops were starting to get thinner and thinner, but they weren't there yet, and games weren't necessarily too powerful. GTA 4 was a real big thing, and I think that was kind of the peak of innovation back then. And then this game comes along and redefines innovation. But anyhow, you guys may be wondering, what is this game? How do you play it? Well, in this video, I will answer it in the fastest amount of time possible. So Europa Universalis 4 grand strategy game. Basically, this game made grand strategy and basically is like one of the best grand strategy games out there. Now, assuming that you bought it during a sale, which props for you for doing that, you're gonna want to know how to play the game before you actually play it. So let me show you how. First things first, you go to single player, and then you get a whole entire map of countries. Generally, where you start off, you want to play somewhere in Europe, preferably. Middle East is kind of no-go for your first game. Asia's a no-go. Anywhere else is a no-go basically, unless you really like getting beat up and beat up pretty badly. Plus, the thing is, this when this game was made, this game was primarily a lot of content was primarily in Europe originally. So as such, Europe has the most amount of events and most storyline based stuff, and generally tends to be the most interesting gameplay coming out of here. But yeah, the whole entire premise of the game is you pick a country, any country. Let's say we picked Castile. Here I'm going to show you what stats they have. This game has a lot of stats, so not enough to explain in one video, but I'll probably explain it. Probably need multiple views in order to explain it, but basically how it works, you select a country, see the country name, banner, religion, in this case Catholicism, which later on you could change that if you so desire. And then technology group, basically that doesn't really do too much. And then kingdom rank, which eventually will become empire as Spain, because Spain is pretty overpowered in recent updates and with DLCs and stuff. So yeah, of course, as you can see, our current king is King Juan de Transamara, and he absolutely sucks ass. 112. Ideally, you want these numbers to be as high as possible. Like, let's take France for example. France 424. I mean, Diplo sucks. The Diplo skill rating sucks, and it's not good. When that sucks, technologies are going to cost a lot higher, and it's going to take you longer to unlock new technologies, and your chances are you're going to fall behind the game for that particular area. And yeah, other than that, it shows every country has their own set of ideas, which are basically bonuses that they get as you unlock this thing called ideas, which basically are like mini buffs for your country. And yeah, there's a bunch of them. Generally, each bonus does different things, and each country has a different set of them. Some are more centered towards colonization, conquering, a bunch of other different stuff. Yeah, it would take a whole other video to show you that. I'm just trying to show you good basics. But yeah, and then below that you can see country size, 20 provinces. Basically, provinces are these little tiny little thingies all around here, and each province produces their own goods, has their own tax rates and trade as well. They trade different goods, they make money that way, and some of them are actually centers of trade. Like, for example, Reims over here is a center of trade, and basically all trade from everywhere goes here. In fact, I'll probably load into a country just in a second to show you more about that. But there's also development, which development basically means how powerful a province can be. Basically, it's like it affects how much tax you get, how much trade you get, how much manpower you get from a specific tile. And then there's also the fort level, which basically just shows the combined level of all forts in a country, basically all the forts combined. In this case, I know that France has a fort in Paris. They have one in Chartres. Probably butchered the pronunciation, but I'm not French, and yeah, don't kill me, French people, please. There's another fort over here, and then there's another fort over here, and these forts basically are places that are kind of like strong points. It's kind of like Mountain Blade, where you have these forts that they're kind of protecting like a city or something like that. In this case, they're protecting a province, and they're basically it's good to have them on your most valuable provinces, but they are very expensive, especially if you have like a lot of them. The cost of them can add up. And in a future video, I'll show you some cost saving strategies for them. But yeah, and then as you can see, some countries already have diplomatic relations with certain countries. Like in this case, France is allied with France because basically same dynasty. They're practically like cousins of each other. The rulers are practically cousins of each other. And France also has a lot of vassals, which makes them a good starting nation because these vassals do a lot for you. And if you get sick of them, you could always just annex them. Yeah, vassal of France, vassal of France, vassal of France. Basically, France owns everything here except these guys, these guys. Yeah, and they also have a guarantee on that. They have military access to that. Basically, all these diplomatic relations have different icons, which once you learn the game enough, you'll figure out what they are. But you know what? Originally I was gonna play as Castile just to show you more of the game mechanics, but I think I'll play as France just to show you some stuff. In this case, we're gonna do normal mode. You can do Iron Man mode if you want to get like achievements, which there are a lot of achievements you can get. You could literally look at them in your spare time, and if you have any questions about them, just let me know, and I'll post them in the description. You guys can look it up that way, or there's a lot of online resources for that as well. Paradox has their own wiki, which I'll probably link in the description as well. But yeah, Iron Man mode basically can't save sessions. You can't save the game. It keeps going on and on and on. There's no save scumming, so to say. So the start you get is start you get. Can't really change anything. In this case, I'm gonna play normal. Alrighty, now that we are loaded in, you can see that we get a nice country description, basically talking about the history of our country and what problems we have to face, yada yada yada. Pretty nice. There are a bunch of different tabs: religion, Catholicism. Basically, most countries in Europe start off as Catholic or Eastern Orthodox. They each have their own bonuses. Eastern Orthodox is pretty OP if you have certain DLCs like Third Rome. Third Rome makes Orthodoxy pretty decent. And yeah, but Catholicism gives you tolerance of true faith, which basically that means that people like your religion. People in your country like your religion more. And 12th strength versus heathens, that basically makes it so that when you're taking over a province that's not Catholic, it's easier to make them Catholic. And ideally, you want all provinces that you own to be Catholic, or at least the same religion as you. That way, you prevent bad stuff from happening. Yep, and then there's the Pope as well. The Pope also does a lot of stuff. Pope's pretty powerful. Pope has his own special tab thingy. Basically, all Catholic countries they get this thing called the cardinals, and I'm going off on a tangent, so I'm gonna go back to what I'm trying to do. So yeah, I want to show you the trade thing that I was talking about earlier. Basically, center of trade. As you can see, market town level 2. There are 3 levels. First level is like yeah, they each have their own different level things, different stats. Fairly interesting. Third one's World Trade Center. I believe the first one is Emporium, Market Town, and World Trade Center. And all of them have their own decent things. They each keep leveling up and up and up. And obviously, the higher level this is, the better. And ideally, in any war, you want to keep those provinces safe. So ideally, you'd want to have like a fort in Reims, possibly, just to prevent that province from being conquered in a war. And because if it gets conquered, every time a province like that gets conquered, it reduces the level. So let's say Burgundy was a conqueror, it would go down from a level 2 center of trade to a level 1 center of trade, and that is no bueno. So now let's see what else should we talk about. Let's talk about the army. Army, as you can see, generally most countries have their own starting stock, so you don't have to worry about it. They also have starting income, manpower, amount of sailors they have, basically people you put on ships. Stability, that is also pretty important because it also affects unrest, people not liking your regime, not liking your regime, how much money you make, how much trade you make. Corruption, generally, don't really worry about that. You see countries like Russia, they have high levels of corruption, and they're doing okay, so you should be okay too. In fact, let me show you how you increase it. So you go to Economy tab, and if you need more money, bam, you just print more money. You just print as much money as you want, and yeah, it just keeps going up and up and up and up and up, and yeah, but realistically, don't do it, because yeah, it's not it takes a really long time to get corruption down. Corruption basically makes anytime you want to use like powers or something like that, like you want to use military power, diplo power, or administrative power to upgrade a province or do ideas and stuff like that, it's going to be very, very expensive. I've done games where I've gotten up to 40. I have a lot of money. I'm financially stable, but don't know if it's worth the trade-off of having to pay a lot of powers for certain things. But yeah, and then the game also has different ages. Currently, we're in the age of discovery. They'll be followed by the age of Reformation, followed by the age of absolutism, and then followed by the age of revolution. The age of revolution is a very spicy one if you know your history. Also up here, there's some tabs I didn't talk about. Prestige, basically how much other countries like you, how powerful you are, it affects your trade, your morale of armies. Aggressive expansion, a bunch of different stats. I'll leave it there for a sec. And yeah, ideally you want this to be as high as possible. Max is around 100, so if you can get up to 100, perfect. And I'll show you a way that you can get it up to get in the positive. Because you see right now it's in the negative, which you don't want that. You don't want anything to be in the negative except yeah, basically they made it so that way red is bad, green is good. Just think of it that way. Anytime you see like any numbers or anything like that, it just yeah, that's basically the way you interpret the game. Green is good, red is bad. In this case, legitimacy, basically how much your people like your monarch. The lower it is, worse unrest is, worse all those stuff are. And yeah, ideally you don't want it to be in the red or yellow category, because once it goes low enough, it'll go yellow and then it'll go red, and you do not want that. Additionally, there is power projection, which basically the more you conquer people, the more you kick butt, the higher the number is, and more people fear you and more people revere you. And here also shows you a bunch of people that you have, a bunch of servants that you have working for you. You have a missionary that taking over any provinces that aren't Catholic. You just convert them with that missionary. Most countries only have one, but if you do certain ideas and certain stuff, you can get it up. Diplomats, you can also get that up through ideas and having a decent monarch. Colonists, you also get that through ideas. Merchants, you also unlock that through ideas. And yeah, rivals. So this is also good for power projection as well, because if you beat your rivals, that's a good thing. So as France, ideally you want to be you want to have England as your rival because they hate you, they hate your guts. Chances are you're probably going to go to war from within like a year or so. And yeah, and then another good move is getting advisors if you can afford it. As you can see, red is bad, green is good, as I mentioned. If you remember one thing from this game, remember green is bad, green is good, red is bad. In this case, we're making 4.52 money, which in this game is called the ducats, and if you call it money or anything else, you'll probably get shanked by someone who's played this game longer than you have. So yeah, call it ducats, don't call it money. As you can see here, it also shows you your dynasty. The nice thing is that as certain countries have traits for their leaders, because leaders have been live enough. As your leader lives on and on and on, they have a chance to develop certain traits, which is represented by this little pie thing. Personality gained in 3 years. Personality basically are these little like, trait thingies. Well advised, possible advisors +1. Morale of armies +5%. Both of those are really good. And when you're at war, morale of armies helps prevent your guys from fleeing. And that's one of the 2 stats you want for military, which I will talk about in a later video. Possible advisors, basically more people you can hire to give you bonuses. And then let's see, our hair is an intricate web weaver, so that means Spino or Nadoshkin. That is actually really good. Zealot for our queen is also pretty good. And there are different traits. These traits can be positive and they can be negative. In this case, they're all positive, but there can be ones that like reduce armor morale, reduce taxes. There's a bunch of them as well, so you have to watch out for that. And the nice thing though is that if your ruler is really bad, sometimes there's these things called pretender rebels that rise up, and sometimes if their stats are better, ideally you want to change your dynasty and just let the rebels win. Basically, kind of sounds like a Star Wars reference, but yeah. Alrighty, so let me show you what advisors do. For advisors, in this case I have 4 advisors because of the perk of my king. Normally there are 3. In this case this guy does discipline, that's the second military stat that you want to be good. Fort defense is also good depending on what your gameplay is, you're playing defensive versus offensively. This guy's really good for defense, and you also get military points, which helps you unlock tech faster and get ahead of the competition, especially military tech. There's one military tech that's really important early in the game is miltech, because the higher it is, the better, and ideally if you can unlock certain units faster than other countries can, you're better off, and it also affects stats as well. There's a lot of hidden stats and stuff like that that would take way too long to delve into. But yeah, so fort defense, morale army is the thing I mentioned earlier. In this case, probably be better to go with the discipline guy, even though he's a little more expensive, but you get more political power off him. And there are certain events where you get cheaper advisors, like people fleeing from exile from England, for example. Yeah, there's a bunch of events. There's far too many events in which that can happen for me to mention. And then there's also this guy. This guy is a cheapo guy, but land force limit modifier. That one is pretty OP because it allows you to produce more men. Like I'm not gonna hire him just to show you what he does. In this case, you see land force limit is 38. Let's hire that guy and see what it changes to. 10%. It's only like a few, but it'll make a difference. Alright, so let's click. 42. Yeah, so it's only like a few, but it still helps. The more troops you have, the better, but the more money you have to pay for them as well. So you have to kind of balance it out. You have to make sure that your economy can support the troops that you make. Additionally, when you have an army, you make sure that they all have generals, which in this case I have 2 generals appointed to me. These guys are pretty good, because France starts off with pretty good generals. This guy even has a trait, siege ability of 15%, which that is pretty OP. And ideally, you see these little dots, you want them to be as high as possible. See, count 4 dots. Ideally, you want like 4 or 5. If it's yellow, it's good. If it's white, it's like okay. Except for siege. Siege on John Burrow is pretty good. This guy's kind of more oriented towards fire. Fire and maneuver. This guy kind of sucks on maneuver, but normally it depends on what you value the most. Maneuver can give you debuffs in certain battles if you're fighting over like a river or in a hill or something like that. But the higher it is, the less likely you're gonna have those debuffs. Shock is basically how much troops you kill versus lose. Fire, generally early on, it's not too much of a factor, but when you go on in the game, you get cannons, and you also get stuff that gives fire stats to your troops, all of your troops, which in that case it's really relevant. Siege is also really relevant for when you're trying to take over an enemy fort, because you need to siege these forts down, and it can take a while, especially early game before the advent of cannons. And yeah, that's basically the game in as fast as I could put it. I'll probably depending on how people like this video or react to this video, I'll make another video explaining this game even further, but there is far too much content to explain in one video, and I look forward to making another video. I look forward to getting back into the grind of making videos, and chances are I'll be experimenting a lot with different games and different genres as well, just playing around with certain stuff. I'll try and focus on games that I feel like are unique but kind of underrated in the whole YouTube community. Like they don't get as much attention as other games do, but are gems on their own. But anyhow, if you like this video, like and subscribe, and leave a comment down below if you have any video suggestions or any comments or any questions about this. I know I've been rambling on and on and on about this game, but I've been trying to explain it as fast as I can. I'll try and make some more videos about this and try to explain it even further for you. But anyhow, like and subscribe, and have a good one.